Welcome to that spiritual, actual, factual answers to questions you're asking. You find them inside you, recite you, reciting the records. Akashic, we laughing, we drafting the passion to vary. It's time for that comedy, dramedy, all of the fanciest, catchiest acronyms. Listeners, listen, we traveling. Consciousness is always unraveling. The reading you're having is mapping you back to your natural habitat. Abracadabra, it's magicless, fascinating. To top it off, the host, all the classiest. Now, what were you asking for? All of the answers? What? All the answers.
Okay, I'm recording.
Okay, I'm recording.
People recording words.
This is what is happening. Hold on, gotta go back to Zoom. All right, there we are. Hello, hello, hello.
Holy crap. What are you doing?
Oh my God. I'm staying in a house that is not my own.
Oh.
While my house is being shown.
Oh, I never heard the final. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, so to catch people up, it's not just our own brains communicating, although it is the topic of today's discussion, is direct mind-to-mind communication.
That's right.
Yeah, with Katie's incredible help, we have mostly emptied out the main part of my house so that we can show it to potential buyers, which made me a squatter in my own home. So I went to stay at a friend's house for a couple of weeks, and then I'm going to move back and semi-restore the house for a couple months, and then move out completely.
Yeah, and oh God, I have so many questions. So how? From what I've heard from the grapevine, you've had a fair amount of both interest and people coming through looking, like a lot of bodies in the building.
A lot of bodies in the building.
So
it's a hot prospect, and we hope it means that people will actually offer to buy it.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of hoops that we still have to go through in the process. Boy, selling a house, that's not a small thing.
No, but even more so, if I may, and I was talking to Eric, I keep him in the loop about all these things, and he was saying, it's like, he said it really well. He's like, it's extra challenging, it sounds like, when you've been a pair of people, you and Ramy.
Yeah.
Being the stewards of a lifestyle and a home for a large community of people over time in a way that sort of doesn't exist very much anymore. And you're having to walk away from not only just your own home, but that whole thing.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we came to terms with it recently, like, really, how can I say it? So yeah, I mean, Ramy and I have been sort of upholding this idea of what this house is for a really long time.
Right.
As a refuge, as a place of safety and security for people who need that. And as and we, been feeling all kinds of ways about letting go of that. And a simple thing was said just in conversation when Ramy just said, we've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, oh, you're right. We have done, like, our karmic, our karmic contribution is thorough and can be complete, as opposed to, oh, because you created this thing, you now have to keep it.
Right. Like, you're wrong karmically or bad for changing what you're committed to financially.
Yeah. So that was helpful just to say it as simple. And then since then we've gotten, I kind of don't even want to go into the level of it, because I almost feel like it might be a Ramy's rules if Ramy wants to talk about it. Just all the messaging we've been getting around about release.
Oh, I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah, you've heard some of it.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know why it's so much. I'll just say that we've been getting from you, from guides, from all of the spiritual people who have messages and channels. And
I know I've been hearing about all those as well.
Yeah. I'm just saying this for the sake.
But what is the thing you feel uncomfortable?
Just the level of detail about it. I just think it's better told by Ramy, honestly, because they've been receiving the messages more directly. But what I will say is the message we have received repeatedly and generously and like a ocean wave or tidal wave of you're good. It is time to let go. It wants to let go. The house wants you to let go. The house is tired and complete and thankful and ready to move its energy elsewhere, letting go. And whether that means letting the house literally be razed to the ground or whether that just means figuratively allowing that idea to no longer be held in as a demand, that's up to interpretation. But as far as our connection to it, really releasing that and letting that go. And I only say it because it's been such from every direction and it all happened at once. We've been getting trickles of it here and there for months. And then suddenly everybody was like, the house called, it says it's tired. You're good. Let it go.
Yeah.
And that was, that just changed sort of all of our mental space around it.
Mm-hmm. Given that I had a full conversation directly with your house and I'm sitting here, I'm happy to share with you. I'm happy to share with the listener that.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I'm just is this information that I'm happy to share with the world? Yeah, sure. I think so.
I'm actually very curious. I want to learn something here.
I'm always very reticent to share things that are not all mine.
That's fair.
You know that.
Well, but but if you think about, if I'm the person who got the information, I'm thinking this as I say it, I don't have this figured out at all.
Yeah.
If I got the information and I helped you with it, whose information is it?
It's also Ramy's.
Okay. Well, then we can wait if you want.
Yeah. I honestly just, and this is, this could be a whole other topic of conversation that we could go on it.
What's interesting to me is that knowing Ramy, Ramy's kind of the least don't say that thing person I know, or one of them. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, that's so funny. Because I've also known Ramy for a really long time, and I know.
Oh, you know Ramy longer than me, that's for sure.
No, but I don't mean that it's not the competition. I'm just but I also know an aspect of Ramy that doesn't like to share secret, private things.
Okay.
Except when they do. So it's more about I actually don't know which thing is private and which is not in this context.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, very interesting. Anyway, so
I think you could share it. Actually, my heart just said, yeah, if you would like to share any of what you received from the house, I think that would be really interesting for the listeners.
I agree. I kind of would like to cut out that whole long debate about that.
Yep.
I just think you're being, I don't know, this is really juicy, great info. That's the entire purpose of the conversation. So if we're not going to talk about that, I'm sort of well, I guess we're not going to talk.
No, we should talk about it. You got information and I think you should share it.
Well, so, okay, for context for the listener, and this can lead us into the thing we decided to meet and record about today. As Ramy and Cassidy have been working on selling this house, I offered to help with regard to cleaning things out and getting the place ready to have pictures. And in helping them do that, hiring some people, movers, etc., I was in the house a bunch and found myself, as I often do in life, very aware of some energy in the house that was really uncomfortable for my body because my body is so sensitive to dead people and also energies that are not light and free that would then hinder potentially the sale of a house.
Yeah.
So I was hey, I mentioned, and other people by this time, and I won't speak particularly for anyone, but other people had said at various points to you and or Ramy in various different ways, seems like there's some energy in the basement. And I didn't know people had said that. And I'm in there working with the cleaners and the movers and going wow, seems like there's some energy in the basement. So there was a lot of consensus around that. And then I was saying, hey, I could come over and do a clearing once the cleaners have come, because what I needed was the energy. Oftentimes, this is a fun, wacky piece of information. When you clean a space, whether it's a room or a bathroom or a cupboard or a house or a car, when you physically clean it with cleaning materials, it changes the frequency in the space, whatever the space is and whatever materials you choose to use. And sometimes you can lose a good percentage of a, quote, dense energy when you just clean a space, because to a certain degree of clean, because certain energies that are hanging around that are not alive human beings walking around in a space have a lower frequency than the lightness we're looking to create, particularly when we're trying to sell a product. Like if a person, a buyer, walks into a space and it's got a density in it, they'll react to that density and not know why.
Yeah.
They don't go like, interesting, seems like there might be some entities in the basement. I'll overlook that and choose this product anyway. They go like, it feels weird here, bye. And then nobody knows what happened.
Yeah.
And then realtors think it's about the market. And then the seller think it's their fault. And really it was just, we should have cleaned that basement out. Anyway, but you'd be surprised the degree to which just a deep ass clean can change the energy. So once the deep ass clean happened, I came back and did a clearing in the woo-woo way. And there was a lot of information that came through. You listened to that, right?
Yeah.
The recording of that? Okay. That was very interesting. I'm tracking through my brain so I don't miss any details. So, oh God, there was so much interesting shit in there. We almost should just play the recording of my message. I have it right here. Would you be open to that?
No, yeah, that's fine. Did you want to just play it into the microphone?
I don't want to give Desmond more work to do. I'd just like, if I can find it, maybe
I have it.
Play it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me see if this is the one. Oh, here we go. Just cleared the house, just left. Can you hear it? Cass and I had a nice little bonding sesh. And I figured I'd update you both at the same time. Just to fill you in on what happened and what was there, and got some intel that was interesting, something I've never seen before. That's always fun. So, thing number one is, you know what? Let me get up this hill. I'm out of breath. 1 second. BTS. Thing number one is the house is clear and there's no energies in there anymore that will stand in the way of the quick and easy sale of the house. That was the whole intention that I went in with. What does the house need in order to release any of those energies? People, entities, whatever. And then, what is it? What's required so that it can sell quickly and easily? So, what was in the basement was lots of people from the past and from the history of the house who either lived in the house or associated with the house, knew people that lived in the house, came through the house, people, human beings, people who benefited from, were saved by, got supported by, got housed by, sheltered by, nurtured by the house, and or people in the house at any time in history who had a real emotional attachment to the house and felt like, this is the place I felt safest in my life, the most welcome, the most connected and in community and happy and good. So sometimes human beings, when they die, when they don't feel ready to go on to another level or dimension, they hang out disembodied in the place they loved most. Or they'll hang out in the place they have the most unfinished business. That was not the case here. It wasn't unfinished business, people. It was, I was so nurtured and loved here, I don't want to be anywhere else. Okay. So I connect with all of them at once and then just go like, hey, I'm trying to sell this house, and unfortunately your energy is like, stopping that, and new things are happening and we need you in a different form, and what do you need? And they all were sort of like, oh, okay, you mean there's a door? Okay, we'll walk out it. It was very easy. The thing about people when they die and they hang around somewhere they love, part of it is they don't understand they have another choice. Because on a certain level, they either don't believe or can't believe that there could be a better option for them. So they just go like, I guess I'll just hang out where it's safe because I'm compulsively afraid that there won't be a place for me. So I'll just hang out right here and hold on real tight and never go anywhere. And then if you show up lovingly in the space of consciousness and you say like, hey, what's up? They go, oh, a door. And they go, we could go to a place? And you go, yeah. And they go. They just go. So that was nice. They did not make my job hard. That was great. There were a lot of them. 60 people or something, 70 people, around that. So they took off. Great news. Then I had some time to hang out with the house itself. Checked the whole thing, the roof and the basement and the land and the area for entities, demons, people, anything else. Nothing else. Good news. And then it was very interesting because I was like, okay, the house itself, the structure of the house, like, what do you need from Ramy, Cassidy, anybody? What do you need them to hear? What do you need to say to them? What do you want to give them? Like, what do I need to know? And okay, this is where it's gonna get weird. And the rest of that stuff, super normal. This was really interesting to me. The house showed itself to me like being the shape of a witch's hat, like a typical black witch's hat from Halloween that you would think of, right? Like from Wicked. Not originally from Wicked, but you get my point. So I was like, okay, you're a witch's hat. Got it, got it. Yes. And I'm just listening and watching and waiting. And then it shows me an aspect of Mother Earth that, wow, I just looked up at this house I parked in front of. Cat eyes in the upstairs window and like a bindi, like a symbol in the middle window that's a bindi between the cat eyes. So the house is a big cat. That is the witch's cat. Okay, so an aspect of Mother Earth, the energy of Gaia, at a certain point in the past, chose to be, the shape it took on was like the shape of a woman, a female witch, who stuck her head up into the basement of this house and wore the house as a witch's hat. Okay, these are all metaphors, but this is happening for real as energy. So there's not like a lady down there, but there's an aspect of Gaia, you could say, quote, quote, took the form of a woman, but not took the actual form, but just was in the shape of a woman so that we could understand what Gaia was doing, and wore the house as a witch's hat. So the magic of Gaia was being disseminated through the hat and held in the walls of the hat and given to the people under the hat and so on and so forth. Now, this woman was really just, remember, an aspect of Gaia. It's just Gaia's energy, but like a little splintered off piece of it, you could say. This woman piece of Gaia was like, I am needed other places in other ways now. I need to be out there doing other stuff for the planet. The planet has moved on and other things are happening and I am needed. And then specifically I was getting, how should I describe that? There's a lot of work in the world right now, believe it or not, and this was good for me to hear for positivity because the world seems so dark right now. Going on in green energy. People are trying, there are a fair amount of people, particularly here in the Bay Area and in Switzerland or Sweden or something, they were telling me about, who are working hard on behalf of green energy, even though Trump and even though Putin, they're like, yeah, we're going to continue making green energy more accessible, but we need to help advance the technology and we need to be a part of communicating the needs, communicating the gifts of Gaia, the frequencies of Gaia to the people working on green energy. So I gotta go already. Can you please, everybody, move along? She was real like, let's go. And she's sort of like, can we collapse this house already? I need to take this hat off. And what she said to me was like, I will move along. I will be able to move along the moment the house is sold. So every effort you make right now to get this house sold is an effort toward green energy spreading more rapidly and effectively in the world, like the planet. in other words, like not just you guys and your friends, but like the entirety of the collective of humanity. And this is an example, she reminds us all of sometimes you let go of the small thing that you're doing that contributes, because the small thing you're doing that contributes tells you it's time to let go. And you're like, but, and then you let go, and then a much bigger thing can happen that contributes to much more people. And that's very real. And that's happening in this case very much so, and very directly. And she says, namaste, thank you for the blessing of the service I could do, and thank you for the blessing of liberating me so I can go do other stuff. The end.
The end. Wow. Yeah.
You know what I fucking love? I mean, I've said this so many times, I'm sure it's boring at this point, but I still like, after all these years of doing this shit, I'm still like, isn't that the coolest? Like, I still feel like that was so cool. Like, why did I, like, I feel like privileged to have gotten access to that information. It just was so, because like, that's the kind of shit I wouldn't like think to make up. It's like not in my brain. None of that. Gaia as a shaped like a woman with a hat. What? It's like all just shown. It's not, anyway, it's very cool for me to be able to be like, okay, look at that, Yeah.
And like that story parallels other stories. I can't remember the details. That's the other reason I'm not necessarily the best reporter on all the things that people have said, but like they're all the same basic message. And that message is, it's not just like, it's okay if you stop, which is a little bit more like disappointing. It's more like, no, we're done. Like, please move on to the next thing.
Right.
Let me move on to the next thing. While you move on to the next thing, it's also, the house is asking for it. The Gaia spirit of this is asking for it. That's the, and there is short-term discomfort of, the displacement of the humans who live there and things like that. And, we've been trying to share this with them as well, if it can help to like alleviate a little of that,
But I have a question about that. I'd like to understand one thing about that. The displacement we're talking about is like we're talking about two things, I think. One is general. We're talking about a bunch of things here from what I know, but wasn't one of the pieces of struggle coming from, there's the move out date the folks living there have in April. And then there's like, all this disruption is happening before April to take pictures, to have walkthroughs, to try to sell it before then.
And they're kind of different. Those are different tensions because the people affected are different people. Like the move out tension is with the people in the apartments who aren't really affected by this internal displacement that's happening in the short term. The people who are being displaced short term, or being, stretched in their living space short term, already were planning it. They moved in with the knowledge of moving out. So like that displacement is not an issue. So it's like two separate, if that makes sense. The people who've lived there a really long time.
Right.
And no one's giving us grief. Let me be very clear. This is all my own, my own guilt or my own, I can't do this to people. But that subject has been addressed now by all this sort of spiritual messaging of like, you're good. You can let go of that. Like, that's okay. Like you don't have to carry that karmic debt anymore. So that part is, it sucks. It sucks looking for housing in the Bay Area. That's just a shitty thing.
Yes.
And we have good house. But I will say, I feel like it's connected.
What is?
This idea that what we have there is a thing that, is unique and it doesn't exist anymore, or is like, a dying form. I'm on a bunch of Facebook groups for like, okay, housing for cool people and stuff like that. And I keep, and the more I click on one, the more notices I get from all of them. And I can't stop. I'm kind of obsessed with finding affordable co-living situations that aren't like, crowded dorm rooms, but are actually like, oh my God, look at this house in West Oakland with a huge yard and a gigantic space. And the rent for a room that you are joining with the community is actually really reasonable. And they are carrying on that concept. And there are a lot of them. And I was really pleased to see that. They're all 20 to 25 to 35-year-old people. So like it's weird, but it's not there,
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if that's where I'm headed in my life right now, but I've got my own housing solution short term. So
I see.
Not,
And when you say short term, you mean, what do you mean?
I am going to be living in a friend's house that they only partially occupy time wise because of their situations.
But short term means 3 months, 2 months, 6 years. What does it mean?
I'm saying 3 to 6 months just because that's a number. Like,
okay,
it's not where I want to land, but it is where I want to
short-term land.
To stage myself. Like I can live here for a while until I'm be like, okay, what is it that I'm doing with my life? Katie, you can't possibly understand that need to move or change locations.
Well, it's very different though from how I have moved and changed locations. That's like entirely.
You are not, you kicked yourself out of spaces.
Yeah, I wasn't like somebody else has said they're doing a thing, so I got to go. Like I'm much more whatever words we're going to put on that.
Yeah. But still, I mean, I'm actually kind of looking for more of a Katie call.
What do you mean?
The reason I made this choice to do not something huge first is so that I could give myself the space and breadth to have a truer calling.
I see.
Because I don't have I haven't had, I'm getting closer to having it, but for months I haven't had the bandwidth to even open my heart up or my brain up or my mind up or any of those pieces of myself to the bigger plan.
Right. That makes sense to me.
And so I'm so grateful. Like I will start crying talking about it.
Yeah.
That I have the resources and community and people who just were like, what do you need? Yeah, we got you, and like,
yeah,
so blessed and so lucky. And I actually, I'm staying in that house right now that I'm going to be living in. So it's a nice audition.
Yeah.
For like, it's going to be weird. It's like, I don't want to be staying in a house. I want to be living in a home. So like, how will I make this space feel like mine as well as theirs for the time that I am here? But, damn it, I had something I wanted to say that it was attached to it and it went away. It went through. Oh, no, I said it. The thing about there are those communities still existing.
Yeah.
I don't know how stable they are. I don't know if they also might be part of a dying idea. Who knows?
Well, I mean.
Not my problem.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think we were just talking about this house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. End of an era. I've lived there 25 years. Katie.
That's so intense. Yeah.
25 years.
It's so intense. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I do kind of want to grab the wheel and wrench it over to the topic at hand. So.
Well, that's what I was going to do it's connected in that. So like we're talking about home and safe spaces, and all while this was going on, I'm going to your house. I'm doing a reading at the house. I'm helping hire people for the house. You guys are going through all this stuff. Rami's talking to 80 people. People are walking through the house. You're going through feelings. You're moving to somewhere else. All this is going on at the same time. Ramy and like 9 other people all in one day said to me, you've got to hear the telepathy tapes, which is a podcast if folks who are listening don't know, that I highly recommend listening to. And everybody, of course, was saying it to me because it's like, it's about nonverbal autistic kids and their parents and adults, nonverbal autistic kids and adults who have an ability to communicate with one another telepathically and have been doing this forever, and have revealed to their parents and families that these autistic people are fully present with high functioning minds and bodies and emotions and psychic awareness and all kinds of levels of gifts and talents and intelligence and scientific abilities. They're fully in there. They just have bodies that betray them and that don't function the way our bodies function. And so they communicate with each other without words. And they do so just fine, thank you very much. And some of them are like actual geniuses on many topics, but are completely dismissed and taught like they're third graders and spoken down to and misunderstood by the education system and the whole thing. And so this telepathy tapes is like fully breaking the mold of our collective understanding of what's going on, A, with autistic people, and B, with telepathy in general, that there's a way to communicate energetically and through conscious transmission of ideas without language and noise coming out of your face holes, or with your hands with sign language or whatever else we've been familiar with.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yes.
I would love to just say, look, when I first signed up to do this podcast, I was supposed to be the friendly skeptic, and that's been gone for a while. But I still have been that sort of voice of not person who isn't necessarily experiencing woo-woo, right?
Okay.
And so I just want to say to our listeners, of course, who are all totally bought in on all this stuff anyway, so it's fine. But like Katie, who has already been familiar with this type of information from different angles, but not necessarily through the non-speaking autistic folk, has heard this information and is probably like, yeah, psychic things, that's right.
That's what I've been screaming from the rooftop, but okay.
I just want to say, having listened to this podcast almost in its entirety, I'm literally on episode 10, which is where they just are doing messages from all these folks. And it's just a series of incredible, deeply spiritual messages of like all the thing you've ever read, from, Ram Dass to Eli to all the different whatever.
Yeah.
I listened to the whole thing, and it is so like the research is grounded. The way in which the stories are revealed is so clear. I can't imagine.
It's scientifically measured and delivered.
Yeah. And it is not, it is not coming from a, well, I went into this thinking, of course, psychic power is real. And now I'm going to do some confirmation bias to, of course, prove that to you. It really is. So just speaking as a person who is constantly running those tapes in my head.
Yeah.
It's just like, yep, okay, that is all happening.
To further your point, like just to underscore what you're saying, it's so not confirmation biasy in that the interviewer who Kai, I can't remember Kai's last name, but the person who makes the podcast comes into the whole project just saying, I don't understand this, believe it, or can get my head around what I'm hearing. So what I'm going to do is, in good faith, I'm going to interview these folks and record them and trust that they're clearly not lying to me. They're clearly kind people. I'm just going to hear them out. And then Kai themselves, Kai is a woman?
I believe so.
Kai herself is in these rooms recording parents and autistic children and adults sharing psychic information, having telepathic experiences in front of Kai. And Kai is just sort of like, well, I can't live in reality and any longer deny that this is occurring because I just am in the room right now while this is So they would run these tests, if you haven't heard the telepathy tapes, like Kai uses a random word generator or sentence generator or number generator. So they come up with a number like 65483 and they write it down and they all look at it. And then the non-speaking autistic person who can telepathically connect with, say, their own mother, that person has to have the mother read the number. The mother just in her mind looks at the number, doesn't say it out loud. The non-speaking autistic person is far, far away across the room, and the non-speaking autistic person gets the number exactly correct the moment their mother, the person they have a telepathic connection with, looks at the number. And Kai's in the room going, I'm a scientist.
Yeah. And they have 6 cameras pointing in every direction. There's no way. And they do it by using a letter board or a number board where they're like going 6, 5, 1, 2, like with a pencil or with an iPad or whatever. They have different ways of doing it.
The way that the non-speaking autistic person communicates is using this letter board, but the letter board is just a way to say words. And so anyway, so it's these episode after episode of Kai, this person just being like, well, it happened again. Our camera guy is real freaked out because he was totally thought this was all bullshit. And then is like, oh, fuck. What? How did you? They did things. This is, this cast. Bear with me. I'm just doing this for the listener. They do things in the podcast like Kai has a favorite book and Kai opens that book to a random page. It's a random book about weird random ship making. I don't remember. I made that up. Gives that book to the person that the non-speaking autistic person has a connection with. That person reads one sentence from that book, one word from that book, and the non-speaking autistic gets it from across the room. A random sentence in a random book that this person has never seen. Anyway, so it's to your point. It's like all being validated in front of your eyes because by a person who walked in going, this is, I don't believe this, but like I'm open, kind of like you coming into this whole podcast.
And then where that leads is to a whole other level. And what I found really interesting, and I don't want to tell too much of the podcast just because I do want people to go listen to it because it's really well made.
Yeah.
But that leads us from this sort of almost like carnival trick level of psychic connection. Oh, my mom can look at a number. And that leads to a much farther, deeper thing that also confirms, even language-wise, so much of the work that you've been doing and that we've been sharing on this podcast, this idea of like fields and levels of reality and even reincarnation and what was the concept of frequencies is a big part of like, and the language they use, even like unity consciousness and like, and the idea that consciousness comes before materialism as where things actually arise from. And anyway, just like the fact that those ideas are being almost, quote, seem to be spontaneously generated from people all over the world because they're in communication with each other and sharing ideas and then sharing them with us. And by people all over the world, I mean non-speaking autistic folk who have some way of communicating with their parents / therapists, teachers, people who are doing the interface with the letterboards.
Yeah. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that it's all that not only are they telepathically able to read other people's minds that they're close to, but they're also using language to describe reality as they understand it that matches the language I've been teaching here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the thing that also just in the last couple episodes have really struck me hard. It's the exact same words. It's not just...
Isn't that a fucking trip?
Yeah, it is not just like, oh, that I could bend that to shape similar to something Katie once said. It's like, no, they just said the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's banana pants. It is.
Yeah.
And like, why am I being blown away with it? Well, why are you being blown away with it? Because it is, I mean, it's exciting. And I actually would like to hear that, Katie, because it's not like it's new information for you, but it is somehow. Because you got very excited about this podcast.
The thing is,
rightfully so.
Here's why for me. I don't have the benefit or the luxury of being able to come into a conversation like this neutral.
Yeah.
I can't walk in and go, I'm not sure about this telepathy stuff. It seems cool. Let's find out. And then hit a tape recorder and have somebody else prove it to me in front of you.
Yeah.
That would be more convincing than me, a random lady, being like, okay, so consciousness says, like, that's the whole reason people like me stay underground and we only talk to who we talk to because you sound crazy because you're the only one of whatever amount of people you know who's like, so by the way, no, objects are not first. Like form doesn't come before consciousness. Consciousness creates form. And then people are like, what are you, religious? And it's like, no, man, we're not talking about a book a guy wrote. We're not talking about a religion. We're talking about the fabric of reality. But like, who the fuck? I'm not a physicist. And in our reality, you don't believe someone if they didn't go to fucking college and get a degree in something we've already decided in the Enlightenment period is a real thing. Everything else is fake, and those are the real things. So when somebody comes along, what's exciting for me is the way the information is coming out.
Yeah.
Is so much more approachable for people. In fact, I'll admit to you, look, this is what's been hard for me about this. There's a way that like it lightens the load on my shoulders. I've felt this pressure to like, man, I know these things and it would be weird to not say them. Like I gotta say this stuff. Like why do I exist with this awareness if not to share it? What's the fucking point? What am I supposed to just live in a corner and just never tell anyone? That feels really sad.
It's the Cassandra problem. Do you know the Cassandra complex? Cassandra is in Greek mythology is a person who has second sight, but their curse is that they know it and they are cursed to never be believed. And that's their lifelong struggle. It's called the Cassandra complex, and it's obviously been applied to people in modern day as just a metaphor for something you have probably struggled with for a long time.
Yeah. Like, and it's what's hard is every day of my life is like a learning and an unfolding into more awareness of more of it. So there's nothing else to do. What else am I doing?
Yeah.
I have to share it. But in sharing it, it's like I'm just a screaming, raving mad woman screaming into the black void of maybe 10 people believe me. And everyone else is someone I have to, quote, convince. And I'll tell you the truth, part of like the exhaustion of doing the podcast and I had to stop is like when something doesn't, like if it stays so small, it starts to reinforce the idea of like, great, I just have to convince people. Nobody believes this. So like, I can't keep pushing against the wind. I can't keep driving a thing that's just like not being heard. It's painful. So it makes me tired after a while. So this comes out and I have two reactions to it. One is, thank God somebody's doing this in a way that more people are going to, not all people, because we got a long way to go, but more people are going to be able to hear this information through Kai's podcast than they can through mine, because Kai is not just a random lady telling truths that they channeled. Kai is in a room recording skeptically, experiencing something that you, the listener, witness alongside them, and then you yourself can no longer deny. So you get to go through the journey of discovery with Kai, which makes you believe.
Yeah.
So my two reactions are, thank God this information is going to be heard by more people now, and that's probably going to help the work I've been doing. But the other reaction, my lower self reaction is, okay, well, I guess I'm useless. Because I know 1,000 people heard us, and that's nice, but 1 billion people will hear this. So like, have I been doing this the wrong way? Has this been a total waste of time? Like, was it valuable? Like, yeah, I don't have the answer to that. And I feel kind of sad about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that feeling. Yeah. It's
like they did it better. They did it better and they did it more effectively. And so what was the point of my bad, weak version of it? Like,
oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't.
It's a question of scale only, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. And who knows, I mean, obviously we know from direct communication with the 1,000 people that we reach, that, we have had a significant impact on a number of people, and it has helped them in many deep ways. And so we can feel good about that. But carrying of the message, yeah, so that's individual, like, oh, that's nice that you got helped and you got helped and you got helped. But as far as this idea of trying to get the message out to the world, that's a whole other level of,
like, I mean, I have only love for our listeners, and like, thank God for you guys. And I'm so glad it's been helpful to the people it's been helpful to. But there's a feeling of, in my space, let me see if I can describe this. Like the tidal wave imagine a tidal wave coming that's 10 times bigger than any tidal wave we've ever seen. A tsunami, 10 times bigger than the Japan ones or whatever. Just picture that in your mind, a tsunami coming to the beach. Imagine all of humanity is sitting at that beach and there's a tidal wave coming and you're the carrier of the tidal wave. You're carrying it in your body. And or let's say you're part of the tidal wave. You're like one little ripple in the tidal wave. And you're like screaming from inside the tidal wave to the people on the beach, we're coming! We're coming! There's a tidal wave! And you sound like that. And people go, oh, a weird bird is screaming. And then all of a sudden, they're flooded by a tidal wave. You could be that, or you could be someone who's like days before the tidal wave, casually walking down the beach, chatting with some people, and you mention it in a way they can hear and they understand you and you're all friends from the same beach party you came from, I guess. And then everybody goes, wow, that sounds really true. What a cool thing. I guess we'll move our stuff away from the beach. And then everyone in humanity moves their stuff away from the beach because you said it the right way.
Yeah.
Now, this is a bad example because the information coming through is not like a tidal wave. It's not going to kill bodies with water, but it's that big. The weight of it, the bigness of the sea change that's available for all of humanity could totally change and wake up and realize what humanity and consciousness is made of. If all of us saw it and got it, everything would change for the better. But it's hard for me to not blame myself for doing it wrong. I must have done it wrong.
Right.
Because nobody, 11 people listened, 1,000 people listened instead of already this telepathy tapes is huge. Hundreds of thousands of people are listening and believing and waking up, and it's great. And it's great. It's all great. But I mean, I do have a feeling of like, did I enter this incorrectly? Or is it just like I have a different path and it's not my path to be that?
Yeah.
I guess maybe. I don't have this one answered. And I know it makes me sound kind of like self-important and like throwing a little fit about like, why don't I get to have the popular podcast? But it's really like, and that's true. That's just my inner child and my inner ego and stuff, or just like, I knew all that stuff before, so I'd like a little credit that I'm not going to get, apparently. So it's like a wrestling I'm doing with my own ego. And also it's confusing a little because it's like if you know how women talk about, sorry, I'm really trying to communicate this and I feel like I'm doing a bad job, but women who have children, who give birth to children, talk about, I have a friend I'm thinking of, my friend in Davis. She's like, she says to me now, as a mother of 2 young boys who are driving her up the wall daily, she's like, I really thought this would be a lot more fun because when I tell you the impetus in me to make these people was so strong, I would have done anything to make these people. I had to make these babies. Everything in me biologically was like, make these babies. And I was like, so it's going to be great because I want so badly to make these babies. She found her husband and they fell in love and they had the damn wedding and it broke her body and she gained 200 pounds, no joke. And she made those babies. And now it's just hard.
Right.
It's just hard. They're just hard. They're hard kids. It's hard all the time, every day. She doesn't sleep enough. Her body is broken. She's on a GLP-1 to try to get back to just feeling like a person. She's depressed. She has rheumatoid arthritis from the births and the pregnancies. She went through all these, like, what do you call them? Miscarriages that were terrible and had to have DNCs. It hasn't been fun or easy. And she's like, so what was...
So I followed the path that was being demanded of me. Fuck off. Why didn't it? Yeah, that's hard.
It's a little hard to not go there when you're like, great. Gave my life blood, worked real hard. I don't know. It may just be like, it does feel like a humility check. It feels like hey, you're not that important. Have a seat. Take your seat where it's appropriate for you to sit. But then I'm like, it also feels shitty because I did a lot of work for you, God. Like, didn't I hustle? And God's like, yeah, but we're going to give the credit to someone else who's like hustling a different way that people understand better. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me to set it up a different way then?
Well, do you want to do a thing? I
forgot the whole point of what we were going to do here today.
That's okay. We might have time. I bet we do.
No, we totally have time.
Great. And I think I'm saying this with relevance. So one of the things that is in the podcast is this unified space that they meet in. And all of them, it sounds like, call it the Hill.
The non-speaking autistics, to be clear.
Yes, thank you. The non-speaking autistic folks all call it the Hill. It's a common language.
Yeah, so all across the world, they've discovered that non-speaking autistics psychically, telepathically meet each other silent without words on this place called the Hill.
It's like their own Discord server.
Yeah, it's like a space in consciousness where non-speaking autistics go to talk telepathically. So what you would see in 3D time is a non-speaking autistic lay on their bed and close their door or go quiet and stare at the ceiling or close their eyes. But what's happening is they're tapping into this space called the hill, where someone in China who's a non-speaking autistic and someone in Australia who's a they're all there on the hill meeting at the same time.
Yeah.
So I said to Cass, let's do a podcast episode where I'll go to the hill in the records. And then you were saying like, yeah, Denise has gone to the hill and Denise says, go to the hill. It's cool there. And I have.
And you've gone to the hill.
I've been a few times now. Yeah. So I thought we could do that here because that'd be cool. And
maybe we can ask if we can talk to anybody. Maybe they can answer questions. And maybe one of those questions is, how do I deal with this feeling of feeling like I fucked up? Because someone might have some wisdom. I don't know.
Well, but I guess I wouldn't want to do that because these are just people who are going to hang out with each other.
That's true. There's a thing that is true about, like you said, we said that one time about like, just because someone's dead doesn't mean they're wise.
Yeah.
Like when you're talking to your ancestors.
Yeah.
Like they might be. A lot of them are, but
yeah,
they also might not be. And like a lot of these these non-speaking autistic folk are also sound like they're bringing through some intense, they're spiritual teachers. They are not just, because they're this way, some of them specifically are like, ascended master level of spiritual teacher as well.
Well, okay, that's true. So in theory, that could be a person you would ask a question of, but I don't want to walk into people's hang space and be like, can I ask a question about me? Like that feels shitty.
Yeah, but I don't even know what the protocol is. You can answer that better.
Well, it seems clearly like rude, but I have a few things to say here. Thing number one is you're making me think about, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I had like 8 ideas at once and then they all went out of my head. Thing number one that I would say is I wouldn't want to just walk in there and just be like, hi, I'm a speaking normie. Can you answer my life questions? But 2 is when I've gone there, this is fun. Just fun intel. It's totally silent and it's just a nice place to hang out. It's just totally, there's nothing happening.
There's no one on the server at that time when you visited.
Because they're not there. I didn't go at the time that there's people gathered.
Well, let's find out.
And so we'll go there now and we'll see if there's people there. But wait, there was something important you made me think about that. Okay, some of them are bringing through high level spirit. Oh, okay. This is what's also really exciting to me is when this podcast came out, another reason it was very exciting for me is I called my human design buddy, who is also my teacher, right? Who teaches me all the stuff I end up teaching other people. And I was like, I said to her what all of her students have been messaging her and saying to her, hey, this telepathy tapes thing talks about people who are, I think it's the raves. The raves are here. So Ra, the guy who channeled all the information for human design, said, very soon you will see groups of non-speaking people who get together in groups of, they have to be in groups of 5, he talked about, and they gather together in circles and they speak telepathically and the rest of us won't understand them. And they're here to usher in the new reality.
Oh.
It's called the raves. They're called the raves, according to Ra.
Yeah, I remember that.
I don't know if you remember, I've talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I go, so the raves are here, I guess, and it's non-speaking autistic people, and where they meet is this place called The Hill. And she's like, I know, everybody's calling me. So we in human design have been talking about the raves for years, going like, oh, that'll be interesting. I wonder what that'll be like. Are they going to be like light beings? Are they going to be like, oh, nope. They're non-speaking autistic people. Who knew?
Some of whom have said, I'm a light worker. Literally use that language in their messages. It's just interesting. Again.
Yeah, but not all of them because they're not all.
Well, that's the thing. It's just because you're on the hill doesn't mean you're a light worker or a spiritual being.
Well, and they have, clearly to be on the hill, you have at least minimally the capacity to get to the hill, which means you have telepathic ability.
Yeah.
So they all have some kind of vaster.
Yeah, you're still in the transcended space somehow.
Yeah.
Well, you want to just visit and just see if anybody wants to chat?
Yeah, that would be cool. Okay. I think I'll just, if it's cool with you. By the way, I just want to say, just thank you for sharing all that stuff about your house. It's very intimate, very challenging, and I just have a lot of respect for what it takes to talk about it. And even though I was like, hey, tell us all the stuff, I don't take it lightly, the stuff.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a really good space right now, but there's been since the last time we recorded, I have been about as low and broken as I can. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. So it's been intense. But right now I'm feeling good. Like I feel easy, breezy, just kind of doing what I got to do. I'm learning to take my hands off the wheel. That's been before we do this thing, I'll just throw in this last little detail, which is, so I'm understudying this show right now, which is also a show about loss and grief and how we process those things. So that's interesting. But I'm doing nothing because I'm understudying, but I'm called all the time. So I'm being paid, which is nice, to go and sit and watch for hours and hours a day.
Yeah.
But I am required to be there. And the task I am given is to sit in the audience and watch. So like, okay, what's that? And it's happening at the same time that also like things with my house where it's like, no, I have to put my hands on it. I have to do it. And people are like, no, that's that person's job. Get out of the way. So I'm clearly like you said, our inward experience reflects our outward reality or something like that.
The outer reality is always showing us something we need to see from the inner.
Yeah. So like, I'm like, okay, you're supposed to take your hands off the wheel, stay present, keep watching, but don't muscle anything.
Man, that's really good. Just to be clear for the listener, you're also referring to in the process with your house, because we didn't say this before. Mm-hmm. There have been a lot of places where you have thought it was your job to do X, Y, or Z, when really it's the people you're hiring to do that job. So there's a lot less you actually have to do than what you think you have to do if you're going to hire these people.
And in fact, my participation is a hindrance.
Right. Right. Being there when the walkthroughs are happening in your own house is bad for any seller to do, not just you.
Yeah.
Over planning how the moving is going to go when the movers have to do the planning so that it all adds up. That's not helpful. But like, you didn't know and you're learning. And like, so I'm just giving context for like, that's what you're talking about when you say that's the overarching theme right now for you, because your job is showing it to you and your house situation has been showing it to you.
Yeah.
In those different shapes. And you're like, wisely, well done, taking the lesson and going, wow, I see it. I see it.
Yeah.
That is a theme.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to toss that in there as additional notes from earlier conversation.
Yeah,
now,
that's cool.
I just want to say, for this thing that we're about to do, the latest I think I could go would be like 12:15. So we still have like a half hour if we need it, but I can't go any later than that.
Just stop me when we get close to that, like 5 minutes from that.
Okay.
If my eyes are closed, which they may not be. I don't know.
Okay.
But thank you for giving a little extra time, because particularly since I was late. I'm just going to talk out loud through what I'm going to do to try to get connected here. So the way I was doing this the other days, I just closed my eyes and I started to feel into my heart center. I'm just taking a couple breaths, and then I start to expand my energy field by thinking of like relaxing the body and just imagining opening and becoming more and more vulnerable, connected to myself, and then to consciousness itself. And then I started to say to sort of God, consciousness, like, hey, can I go to the hill? And I would get a yes, and I'm getting that now. Then I was saying, what's required of me to go there? And it was like, nothing, just ask. And I'm like, okay, can I go to the hill now? This is how I've been doing this. And so now I'm asking again, may I visit the hill where the non-speaking autistic folks go? And I'm getting the sense that I need to open the akashic records of something. So, because when I do that, it's a way of raising the frequency, like tapping into a higher frequency than my body, mind, ego allow me to do alone. So I want to thank it's all backwards. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. Holy Spirit of divine light, protect me, please, from all forms of self-centeredness and direct my attention to the work at hand. Help me to know the hill. Yes, in the light of the Akashic records. Help me to see the hill through the eyes of the Lords of the records. And enable me, please, to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of the hill have for the hill. I'd like to access the akashic records of the hill, and in so doing, maybe visit it. So I'm going to repeat that prayer internally now. And then I'm just asking, will you deepen me into energetic frequency alignment with the energetics of the hill? Like, will you make me resonate at the frequency required for me to sit there in that space? And okay, so this is like when you are have a radio, like an old-timey radio, and you you're turning the knob left and right, and you get like just between two lines, and that's the channel. You know how you find the channel on a radio? You know what I'm talking about?
I think so. Yes, I know what you mean.
Like you turn the knob, and it's not, if you do it 1 millimeter to the left, you're not on the radio station. But if you do 1 millimeter to the right, you are on the radio station.
Uh-huh.
You know those old, do you know what I'm talking about? An old radio?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Okay, great. So this is like being tuned to just a specific frequency on the radio of reality. And so what I'm getting here is what they do, these folks, is they just choose to attune to this frequency. And when they're all attuned to this frequency, they can hear each other and communicate. And so are there any people there now? No. Can we talk with anybody there? No. Would it be appropriate for us to speak with anyone there? No. If the people were here, would I know they were here? Yes. If the people were here, would I be able to hear them talking to each other? Yes. Would I be able to say anything they could hear? No. Huh. So like we can't really invade the space with our expression anyway, correct? So you can't have just like psychics bopping in and being like, "Hi, it's me, Jenny from Kansas." And they're like, correct. So, but isn't it maybe a little weird or unfair that we get to hear them, but not announce our presence? And what I get back is they know you're there. They're just not freaked out by it because it's like they know you can't affect them in any way that is a problem. And they're very kind, so they understand your curiosity, but it's almost as if you're behind a pane of glass. So it's fine that you're there. It's just they're very welcoming and their hearts are very wide open in a way that's hard for humans to understand, like typical humans to understand, not autistic folks. Are there any humans that could go on the hill and be heard by the non-speaking autistic folks? Yes. Okay. And are those, okay, I'm just going to, who are the non-autistic folks that can be heard and connected with? Okay. So certain human beings who are deeply kind and gentle and have moving through their entire body a softness of spirit, and who have spent a lot of time in meditation and on the awakening path, or that's not the way to say it, on the path of the dissolution of self, the dissolving of self. People who sit in that dissolved space for long, long periods of time and are very kind and gentle can sometimes be welcomed in fully and communicated with, because that's just how it is on this channel, on this frequency. There's a guy they talk about on the podcast, Dan?
Yeah, I forget his name, but I know.
Yeah, and he can go, and he's been, and he can speak with the folks there. And so I'm wondering, like it's like, am I someone who could ever speak? They're like, no. Okay, cool. All right, that feels appropriate to me and very respectable.
Your Enneagram 8 ass can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Also, just like I'm trying to get this the way that consciousness would say it, but like I haven't dedicated my time and energy to like sitting in the ocean of oneness. I do a different thing. I go to consciousness and say, what would you say? What do you want me to say? What words can I share that are your words? And that does raise my frequency, but it's not the same as like when I went to Sufi school and they dissolved me one day all the way to the realm of the unity just to show me what it was. You can't just like if I sat there in that place every day for 8 hours, I might become someone who could go to this, whatever. You see what I mean? Like, yeah, it's a different thing.
It's nice that they let you visit, but you're a zoo visitor. That's a terrible way of putting it. I want to retract that. That's not as.
I know what you mean.
But yeah, you're an observer.
Yeah. I'm going to just ask again, is there anybody here on the hill? No. If we put a call out, would anybody come? No. Okay. Well, is there anything else for us to understand about the hill or learn from the hill? Or have I stated it? The only thing they would say is it's just as simple as you stated. It's just a frequency. It's just a dial knob turn onto a certain frequency that is a frequency that makes sense to this group of people. In the same way that you would teach Katie about the Syrian light beings are a certain frequency. And when you invite a Syrian light being into your body, you get a certain frequency versus when you invite a Lemurian or any of the other star beings, those from Orion or, gosh, I'm blanking on all the light being names right now. But anyway, they're all a different vibrational frequency, and Arcturians and Mintakans and so on. This is a place that is a certain spot on the dial in the vast field of conscious attention that just works for this group of people to gather within. And it's very simple. And that's part of why it's so hard for most people, human beings, to visit, let alone be invited to speak, because it's almost too simple to understand. Like, oh, just open to this frequency? Well, frequencies aren't real and I can't open, and how would I do that, is what people would say.
Yeah.
So, okay. Consciousness goes, okay, fine. It has no problem with okay, I think I'm going to close the records of the hill, if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
But I do have one closing question for consciousness itself that I think I'll ask outside of the records of the hill about my whole issue with who I am. Okay, so I want to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion, the lords of the records for their point of view, and the Holy Spirit of light for all knowledge and healing. I ask that you return all of the hill's energy to itself now. I ask that you return it to its complete hilly wholeness. Divine portal and the Akashic records of the hill are now closed. Amen. The divine portal and the Akashic records of the hill are now closed. Amen. The divine portal and the Akashic records of the hill are now closed. Amen, amen, amen. Very bright in the third eye with the hill specifically. Like sometimes different frequency places are like very heart centered or very all through the body or whatever. This was like bing, very bright, just right in the third eye, very visual, bright in the third eye. Well, maybe we don't ask that now. I was basically going to ask, but I'm aware of time. I was going to ask how do I get through my, I'm up against some kind of resentment or some kind of I'm mad about my station. I'm like, was all this for nothing?
Yeah, an envy or a jealousy or a something.
Yeah, I'm just it feels like self-blame, like I didn't do it right. And it feels like, what do I have to do to get where I want to go? Like, what do I have to do to succeed at this? Like, what am I doing wrong? What do you want from me?
That's the big one. What do you want from me?
And I thought I knew. And I can make up a billion examples or answers of I know from just wisdom, I know other ways to frame this and how to do work around it. But I thought it might be interesting to just get some guidance of what action should I take to get okay with all this and to see what is my place. Is it there's something big in the future coming, or it's just not a lifetime of big achievements on a global scale. And I need to get on board with that. There's some part of me that's still I feel like this could be really, really big because the information is so big and I have the capacity to articulate things pretty well. Pretty good channel, pretty interesting way of talking. Seems to all add up to something big, but maybe that's just ego. Maybe it's just, I want to believe that to feel worthy or it's some kind of proving.
Yeah.
I just actually kind of can't tell because it feels not like proving and not like ego. It feels that's what I was trying to describe with the tidal wave. I think I didn't do a good job. It's I can tell that the information, if it came out correctly, would be earth-shattering. And so the telepathy tapes is doing that and it's being earth-shattering. So what do I have to do to be a part of the wave of it that is earth-shattering, not just tiny rumble creating?
Yeah. No, it's a valid question. I mean, do you think it's a larger question? Do you think it's an entire episode question that we should convene in a week?
Yeah.
Because that actually sounds like a good teaser.
Yeah, he's taken.
Because I'd love to talk to you about that just as a fellow human being too. I think that's a pretty big, huge, deep, important philosophical and spiritual conversation.
Okay.
So
that sounds good.
Let's make that promise for a very soon next episode.
Yeah.
Because we might be 3 months, we might be 1 week. We make no promises.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. That was just what I will say is I feel your visiting of the hill didn't raise my heart rate. It in fact lowered it in a good way. Like I didn't get like, ooh, excited. It's more like, oh, okay, that's nice. Like, so I had that experience of just a nice calming wash.
That's cool.
So I'll take that into my day.
It's really good. Well, have fun sitting there and not doing stuff.
Oh, that's not today. Today I'm so busy. I'm going to go do a short film callback in a few minutes here.
Oh, break legs.
Just here on Zoom. And then go over to the house, do some stuff, actual hands-on stuff.
Nice.
And then fill out disclosure paperwork.
What's that? Oh, disclosures. Yeah.
Ugh. And then maybe this evening I'll have the evening off.
Oh, that's fun.
So we'll see. Oh my God, you guys are amazing. Cut out that weird thing that we just did, but also, hey, love you. Do your work. I'm just stopping recording.
What are you asking for? All of the answers? Say what? All of the answers? Yeah, all the answers.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you. Please email us with your questions so that we have questions to answer in the Akashic Records. Our email address is allanswerspod@gmail.com. That's allanswerspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to find us on Facebook or Twitter, it's @allanswerspod, @allanswerspod. Thank you.
We can bleep that.
Mixed and edited by Desmond McNeese for We Mixed It, LLC. Go to whatsoundsawesome.com.
Okay, also off air.